This is Life Transformation Radio. Prepare to engage. Seatbelt activated. Download initiated. Your quantum journey of transformation begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. Hi, I'm Rob Actis, best-selling author of The Law of Action, voice actor, business mindset coach, the podcast whisperer, and Mr. Action himself. Life Transformation Radio is heard in over 90 countries. Thank you for joining us from all around the world. Whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to Life Transformation Radio for some time, I want to personally thank you. Here at Life Transformation Radio, we are committed to share more about real life, love, the power of positivity, romance, and of course, laughter. We care about helping others find their internal drive and purpose. We celebrate life's challenges and overcoming them. Please rate and review Life Transformation Radio on your favorite podcast platform. We so appreciate it. On the show, my guests are amazing people who are forces for good in the world around them and live a life of transformation. My guest today, well, he does just that. Today, Sean Swarner and I discuss how no challenge is ever too great. If you want to defy the odds, test your endurance, and help motivate people around the world so you can live a life of inspired action, this is the show for you. Sean is the only person to climb Everest. Wow, that's huge. Not only climb Everest, but it's the highest mountain on every continent. He ski to both poles and complete the Hawaii Ironman. And here's what makes it different for Sean. Getting a little emotional here, Sean. It's pretty amazing. All after 2 terminal cancers, a 14-day prognosis, a year-long coma, and with just 1 lung. Sean, welcome to Life Transformation Radio. You broke me up there, mister.
No, your intro there was really slick, man. I like it.
Well, thanks. Emotion catches on. I have a friend that just died the other day of cancer, and I saw that, and it's amazing what you have done surviving cancer. So first of all, congratulations. And I know that's not an easy task, and I know you worked your ass off to make that happen.
You know, I did, but first of all, I'm terribly sorry to hear about your friend, but I would love, and I would be honored to have his or her name, if you wouldn't mind emailing me, because every year I go up Kilimanjaro as a fundraiser for a cancer charity, and we have a flag that actually says hope on it. And we take the flag to the top of the roof of Africa. And on that flag are names of people touched by cancer. So anyone who's in memory of someone who's going through treatment, whatever it might be, it's really a great way to honor those people. And I would be very grateful to take your friend's name with us.
Yeah. Not only my friend, but I have a very, very close person in my life who is very private about her cancer, and very few people even know. So I can't even really say the relationship because they would know. But she's suffering greatly with it. She had breast cancer, and then it went into her female organs. And then now, last week, they just did more surgery on that, and she had part of her intestine removed. And I would love to do that for her. That would be great. So, it's hit a lot of people. And, when I started meeting you on Clubhouse and hearing what you've done and just hearing the passion in your voice and just, what an action take you are, and the fact that you climbed Mount Everest with just 1 lung is pretty remarkable. And I'm like, I got to get you on the show. I got to hear this story of transformation. And then it keeps adding on and adding on and adding on. I was looking at your stuff today, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I thought I've accomplished a lot, and I thought that I was really moving, and I had a blood clot, and it was definitely paralyzing and definitely not a good thing. And I didn't lose a lung and I didn't climb Mount Everest, but what I did was I got out of bed every day. And sometimes that's hard enough. That's my Mount Everest sometimes, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, a lot of people, after they hear what I've accomplished and what I've done, they say, oh man, I feel so insignificant. I could never do that. I feel so unaccomplished. I haven't done anything with my life. But in all honesty, you know, the only difference between me and anybody else is I might have a warmer jacket, you know, because everybody who's going through something, it's real to them. Everyone has their own mountains to climb. Everyone has their own Everest, and it's a constant uphill struggle, regardless of how seemingly insignificant it might be to someone else. It's a tremendous mountain in your life. So whatever you're going through, just keep going through, and it's real to you. So I would never compare someone who's climbed Everest to someone who's never going to, because it's apples and oranges. You know, one of the things that my parents taught me a long, long time ago was I never had to be the best. I had to be my best. And I just had to focus on me. I had to worry about getting myself one step ahead of the other. And that's it. So, you know, you may not climb Everest, but you still have mountains to climb in your life, and they're real to you no matter what you're going through.
Yeah, that's being a dad to a 22-year-old girl. That's my Mount Everest. So that's my Mount Everest. No, she's absolutely fabulous. But yeah, it's amazing the challenges that are put before us in life and how we overcome them. And you know, it's interesting because as I was thinking about that today, and then I just said right here on this show, where I'm like, you know, my Mount Everest was waking up every day and trying to get out of bed because it was really scary. I had a blood clot and I wasn't supposed to live, and then I was waiting to not die, and that was horrendous. It was terrible. And there's so many people with so many different things that are happening to them, and I think that mindset has got to be the one thing that got you through everything you've gotten through. It had to have been your mindset, whether it was laughing or just, you know, everyday meditation. What was it that got you through this? Because what you went through was extremely difficult, and you did it, and you did it with grace, and, you know, you're climbing Mount Everest.
You know, you really hit a chord there when you said you were waiting to not die. And that really made me think about perspective. And it really made me think about when I was going through my first cancer at 13. And just flash back to me being 13 years old, 60 pounds overweight, in the 8th grade. And I remember waking up one morning and seeing just a ton of hair on the pillow, you know, on the pillowcase. And I ran to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and first thing I noticed was I didn't even recognize who I was. I didn't even see any bit of Sean Swarner in those eyes. He was completely deflated. And I had bald patches in my hair, and I knew it was eventually going to fall out. So I went into the shower, and later on in life, I didn't find this out probably until 10, 15 years later, but my mom, bless her heart, every time I was in the shower, she would sneak into the bedroom and replace the pillow cover because my hair was slowly falling out, and she just didn't want me to see that. I mean, that just shows the love of mother for her son.
Wow.
And when I was in that shower, you know, that's when all my hair fell out. You know, and talk about just how traumatic that was for a person who, 13 years old, basically on the cusp of his teen years, or cusp of his life. You know, my friends were out chasing girls, collecting baseball cards, having a great time with their lives. They were, you know, hormones were kicking in. They were growing hair in unusual places on their bodies. You know, I was losing hair.
Oh man, yeah, that's rough.
Absolutely. And I remember collapsing to the shower floor. The water was filling up because the drain was clogged with all my hair. I had to pull chunks of hair out of the drain so the water could go down. And talking about perspective, and you said that you were waiting to not die. As a 13-year-old, I saw that I had two choices. I could fight for my life or give up and die. And I chose to obviously fight because I'm still here. But it was also, as a 13-year-old, I didn't want to focus on not dying. I wanted to focus on living. Because looking back at it, I can only imagine how my life would have turned out if I kept telling myself over and over again, psychologically, don't die, don't die, don't die. As opposed to, hey, I want to fight and live. Because as we all know, you're pretty much drawn towards whatever your focus and your attention is at or is on. And I didn't want to focus on not dying.
Well, it was interesting for me, and I love that mindset, is that I in no way wanted to die. I wanted to live like more than anything in the world. And the thing was, with a blood clot, it was so random because he's like, here's the deal. It's from the top of your hip to your ankle, and the wrong movement is going to break a little teeny piece off, and it's going to go to your heart or lung, and you're probably going to die of a massive stroke. And so I'm like, I can't control that. So I did a lot of a mindset. Like I was visualizing, like on a daily basis, this giant chrome machine that was boring its hole through the blood clot, but it actually had this mesh that was catching it so that it wouldn't go into my heart or lungs. And I was doing that on a daily basis. And I say that I tried to not die because I wanted to be alive, but my body was going to do what it did. And I think that's a really interesting conversation to have, because I love how you pointed that of like not die and focus on the positive of to live. And I was doing that because I just checked myself. I'm like, was I doing that? Because of what you brought up. And I'm like, I hope I wasn't doing that. And I wasn't. And I'm glad that you weren't either, because you are so inspirational to so many people, and you have had such a positive impact on the world because of the fact of what you overcame.
You were, I don't even know how to phrase this sentence properly, but when you were visualizing that giant machine with mesh going through, destroying it, when I was this is uncanny. When I was going through my treatments, have you ever heard of the comic book Calvin and Hobbes?
Yes.
Okay, Bill Watterson?
Yes.
So his alter ego was Spaceman Spiff, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 13, I visualized myself as my alter ego, which at the time was Spaceman Spiff, in a microscopic spaceship in my IV drip bag going into the clear plastic tube. And I could see my body. I would visualize my body laying in the hospital bed on my left, the door to the hallway, the door to the hallway in the hospital to my left as well, the television up on the wall, my mom or my dad sitting in the recliner chair, and then a window off to the right side going out to a courtyard. And I would visualize myself going into my body and all of these millions of microscopic spaceships collected in the heart. And that was like Grand Central Station. And I could visualize from the inside of my heart, my valves beating, lub-dub, lub-dub. And then all of a sudden I was shot out into my body, and I would follow the blip on my dashboard telling me to turn right or turn left at a vein. And I would sneak up on the chemotherapy and shoot it with missiles and lasers and bombs and everything else that were laden with chemotherapy. So when you said that you were inside your body with this machine destroying that blood clot, it's the exact same thing I did when I was battling the cancer, where I was destroying it from the inside. There has to be something there.
Yeah. And I haven't shared that with a lot of people. And it's funny you said, you were the spaceman, because I visualized that I was inside this thing. I was controlling it with the joysticks with my hands. And I was in there. Like I was, and it's interesting because even to the point of saying that I had the mesh to protect anything from falling back into my heart or lungs. And what's fascinating about that is that my blood clot, which is not supposed to be reduced because it was just one solid mass from my hip to my ankle, it wasn't supposed to reduce. It was supposed to go down to like 80%. And I've been doing this for a long time. And I just went in for my ultrasound for it, and it's down to like 15%. Like I used to have to go into the doctor every 2 months to get an ultrasound on my leg to see where things were at. And I go in once every year now, I think it's now every 2 years. They just changed it because it is reduced so much. And they're like, we don't know why, but it did. And I'm like, oh yeah, because I was in there boring with my machine and I was controlling it. And it's amazing. And then I will tell you one other thing. There's a friend of mine, her name is Connie Scavella, and she is a business coach, and she actually has a book called Soar, and it talks about how she had cancer, and I think it was in her brain. I'm just trying to remember. And she did the similar thing that you and I did. And apparently it's a lot more common than I ever thought. And maybe you didn't think. I mean, I don't know. Do you know other people that have done this? But I'm in these conversations, and especially on this radio show, Life Transformation Radio, I've had a few people come on and say, yeah, so we were like, I was boring, or I was blowing it up with dynamite, or shooting it with a gun, or whatever they were doing. And so mind is very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, I have never heard of anybody else who's destroying things inside their body, taking care of their health from the inside out like that. I don't know of anyone else except for you. Like I said, that blew my mind. But I've also utilized it climbing the mountains. When I decided to climb Everest, people told me it was physiologically impossible for someone with half their lung capacity to make it to the top of the world. But I, again, visualized myself at the top, and I used all my senses. I could smell the ozone. I could feel the sun's radiation, essentially literally burning my skin. I could hear the snow like styrofoam crunching under my feet. And then the biggest component I think that people miss, or they forget to talk about, or actually feel, when you reach that goal, when you reach that plateau, when you reach that summit, when you're healthy, how does that feel? That's going to connect the mind and the body more than anything else, I think.
Yeah, I am all about the mind. I think the mind is so incredibly powerful. And, as a narrator for Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning audiobook, one of the things that is mentioned in the Miracle Morning is how athletes visualize all the steps that they are doing before they do it. The training for athletes is actually more effective if they feel what it's like to hold the golf club in their hand, feel the body movement as they're swinging back, feel the force of the energy as they do take the swing, and the feel of the ball hitting the club and vibrating through their hands, into their arms, into their soul. And not even physically doing it, but in your mind, that's actually one of the most powerful ways for a lot of high elite athletes to train. And it just shows how powerful the brain is. And I think it goes into garbage in, garbage out. A lot of people don't honor their brain, and they really pollute it with a lot of stuff, and they don't realize how powerful it is to heal. And if you're thinking negative thoughts all the time and really not getting square with your mindset and have massive stress, your body will definitely kick in, and the bad stuff is going to happen.
Absolutely. And I actually talk about this quite a bit in my keynote presentations. There's a point where I stop and I ask people in the audience, like, hey, how many people here start their day by turning on the news? It's probably 70%. And then I ask them the same question about how many people before they go to bed turn on the news. And it's probably 70% again, 75%. And then I say, why are you bookending your day on a negative note? If you're not programming your brain, it will be programmed for you. And most people aren't even aware of it. Because there's that saying that you are what you eat. But, in all honesty, you are what you consume. If people are constantly consuming negativity, that's what's going to be filled in their brains. And people don't even know it. So if you don't program your brain, it's going to be programmed for you. I mean, a perfect analogy is, let's just take a glass of water, for example. Dirty water represents negative thoughts. Clean water represents positive thoughts. Let's say you have a glass of dirty water. You stick it under the faucet, turn the faucet on, and constantly flush it with clean water. What's going to happen to the glass of dirty water? It's going to come out clean and beautiful. Same thing with your mind and your thoughts. People need to start paying attention to the internal dialogue. And I'm not talking, the crazy voices inside your head. I've learned to ignore those.
That's a whole nother show. I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV. That's a whole nother. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's so amazing. That's so true. I don't watch the news. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she's like, "Well, aren't you concerned about me?" And I'm like, "I'm always concerned about you. What's happening?" She goes, "There is a hurricane on its way here, Irma." And I'm like, I didn't know that. Well, why don't you know that? I don't watch the news. Well, you should be watching the news. I go, I don't watch the news because I want to have peace and tranquility in my life and flow. And, if there's going to be a hurricane in Arizona or a monsoon, my phone will light up like a Christmas tree and let me know. And, I do care about you. And I also know that I trust that you know what to do and you're safe. And if you need me, you'll call me. And you can also call and say, "Hey, there's a hurricane coming. I need a little love and compassion, and, tell me everything's going to be okay." I can do that too, but I really don't watch the news. I don't want to watch the news. I was in radio. I have friends in the media now that are actually quitting because they're so stressed out because of just what the news is and how the news cycles and what's behind it. And that's another story of, the corporate news media and all that stuff. Yeah, they're all going crazy. I mean, they really are, because they're involved in it so much, and they're just always in it. And I think it was Brian Tracy. I think it was either Mark Victor Hansen or Brian Tracy. I was at an event a long time ago, and one of the things they said, "Key to happiness." I think it was Brian Tracy. Mark Victor. One of those two. I don't know. It was a while ago. It was like 20, 30 years ago. And he said, "Don't watch the news." And I'm like, okay. So I don't watch the news. I don't. I mean, it's interesting because just through osmosis, you get the news. Like, people just tell you. Like, that's just the way it is. But I don't sit down and watch the nightly news, and I don't wake up to the news, because if there was like the happy news, I'd probably do that. But I don't. Life is just happy, and I just, I'll know when I know.
We need a news station out there called GNN, the Good News Network.
Well, that guy from The Office did a podcast with that. I'm trying to think. Jim Halpert. That's not his name. I can't remember what his name, the actor's name is, but I know him as Jim Halpert from The Office. And he started a podcast during the pandemic, and it was all about good news, and it really took off. And but it's not as big as it was because people don't want to hear good news. I do. You do. And I know the people in this room do. But I don't believe that people all think how powerful our brains are and that it's garbage in, garbage out. And I love the analogy. I'm going to use that all the time now, of the dirty water and flushing it with good, clean water, and what happens.
Absolutely. It's an analogy that'll work for a 5-year-old or a 105-year-old. I mean, it's a timeless analogy, and it's fantastic. But while we're talking about the negativity of the news, something happened today where I'm leaving for Kilimanjaro just in a couple of days. This will be my 21st trip of the highest mountain in Africa, and we do it as a fundraiser for a cancer charity. So we actually pay for a survivor's trip every year, and then the survivor has to raise funds for next year's survivor, paying it forward and keeping it in the cancer family. Anyone can go. I mean, it's a life-changing adventure. 7 days up and down the mountain, then we do a 4-day safari in the Serengeti. So it's beautiful and absolutely life-changing. But earlier today, I was talking to the group because I always have them. I'm going to double check, make sure no one's in here from the group. Okay, good. Because I don't want to give it away. But I always send out a core values assessment.
Well, they might be listening to the show, so I'm just saying, if you're going to reveal something, I'm just letting you know, there's a few people that listen to this show, so if you don't want to reveal something, you may not want to reveal it.
No, it's good.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine, because I'm actually going to address it when we get to Tanzania.
Okay.
So
I got your back, man. I got your back. I got your back, Sean.
I appreciate it. Okay. Looking out for me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But when we get there, anyhow, I give them this core values assessment, and what they do is they fill out the top 10 core values. I give them a list and everything. And then I ask them to fill out fill in the blank from a sentence I send them. And I ask them questions about when you're at your lowest point, when you're at your deep in your deepest, darkest hole. Let's say you've been up at summit night on the highest mountain in Africa, the highest freestanding mountain in the world. We've been hiking since midnight, and it's 4:35 in the morning. It's still pitch dark, and you want to quit. If you could fill in the blank with one word, what would it be? And I say that the sentence is, I am blank. And I do it that way because most people, in fact, this is where I'm going with the story, everyone comes back and they say, I am confident. I am strong. I am unstoppable. All positive words. There were 2 people who came back and said, I am not going to quit. I am not going to be defeated. And I don't think people understand how that internal dialogue is negative. They saw it as a positive thing. Like, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to be stopped. And I can see from that perspective how it seems positive, but the brain doesn't see it that way.
Right.
You know, when I'm on the mountain, I tell people, a lot of people say, don't quit. No, turn it around. And I literally tell myself with my right foot or my left foot, with one foot, I tell myself, the higher I go. And then with the next foot, I say, the stronger I get. The higher I go, the stronger I get. And people need to pay attention to that internal dialogue of positivity and negativity because they're constantly feeding themselves negative thoughts when they think it's positive.
That's really cool. I like that. I really like that. You know, it's moving forward. And I talk about that, moving forward with momentum. You know, you can stop, but don't go back. You want to keep moving forward with momentum. And the universe takes notice. It really does. And it will give you gifts. It will bring people into your life. It'll bring opportunity. It will bring you strength, internal strength that you never thought you had. Your mind is so, so powerful. And I wish just one day, like people say, what's a crazy wish you have? I would love to be able to use 100% of my brain. You know, you saw the movie Limitless where he took the pill and he has access to everything. What would that be like? Like to learn a language in a half a day. And what would that be like to do, telekinesis? Because our brains are so powerful. We only use 5%, 10% of our brain, if that.
Yeah, I had a funny saying from college where I would go out because after surviving the 2 cancers, I tried to relive my high school years. 13 to 18 it was taken from me. So I went to college and I turned into Belushi from Animal House. I had a great time. Oh, wow. And I was joking with my friends, when I was drinking, saying I was just killing off the weaker cells, making myself stronger. So
that's a great line. Oh man. Yeah. You're definitely killing off something if you were doing the binge drinking thing.
I was killing off the weaker ones. I was making myself more streamlined. But you're right. People need to start paying attention to how they talk to themselves. And they really need to pay attention to what they say to themselves. It's proven that 80% of the talk that we have, that self-talk, that internal dialogue, is negative. And you talk to yourself more than anybody else throughout the day. And if you're talking to yourself 80 to 85% negatively, would you be friends with someone who is that negative to you?
Oh, Sean, you and I are on the same page as that. I talked to a lot of people and, had conversations and just think for a moment. You love yourself, right? And they go, yeah. And you love your best friend, right? Oh, yeah. Now, the words that come out of your brain talking to you and telling you all those mean, nasty things about you that hurt you, would you ever in a million years say those to your best, dearest friends? Oh my God, no, I would never do that. That would be crushing for them. Then why do you say it to yourself? Like, the conversations that people have with themselves are so brutal. And not only they just stop them dead in their tracks. And the thing about that is they would never, because most people are good, kind people, they would never in a million years have those words come out of their mouth ever to anybody that they cared from. Yet they say those things to themselves, and they not only say them, they embrace them and believe them.
You know, there's this thing that I call the gales, and that's what gets in people's head, and that's what holds them back. Those are the self-limiting beliefs. It's the gremlins, the associations, the interpretations, and the limiting beliefs. And the worst one is what you're talking about right now, what we're talking about in the conversation. It's that little gremlin that sits on your shoulder and says, Sean, you're not good enough for that. Rob, you're not smart enough for that. You can't do that. You're not strong enough. You don't have the experience. And that's usually a deep-seated emotional attachment to that little gremlin.
Yeah.
And everybody has it. And I've helped a lot of people get over it by, well, first of all, if you have that voice in your head, you know, that little gremlin on your shoulder, this is what I've done. It's going to sound really weird. I've named mine, right? His name is Cooper the gremlin. And whenever I hear that little voice, I don't know, Sean, you might get hurt. Cooper, come on, man. You know, and it took me a while to realize, and I actually had this conversation, again, going back to the conversation that we had earlier about those internal voices, and it's another topic for another discussion, but that's only one voice, so I'm all right. Looking at Cooper, I told him a long time ago, I was like, listen, man, I know you were here from a long time ago. There's something happened in my life where you were there to protect me from getting injured, from getting made fun of, or whatever it might be. But I'm older now, and we're here to help one another because we both want what's best for me. So why don't we work together to make it happen? So that was instantly when Cooper started saying, hey, Sean, you can do this. Hey, let's give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? And that gremlin, that negative voice, disappeared. Now I have someone on my shoulder who's pushing me forward, who's helping me live as opposed to just be alive. I have someone who's encouraging me to go out and explore as opposed to just being safe at home. So I encourage everybody to name your gremlin, have a conversation with them, and they'll disappear. Or they'll encourage you to move higher, faster, stronger, be smarter, whatever it might be. That voice will encourage you and push you further and further and further.
That's amazing, because I had a Roger, and I've never told anybody that I named that voice in my head. I can't believe you. That's just so weird. That I was hearing you talk about that, and it's amazing because, you know, after I recovered from my blood clot, I still deal with it. And Roger left. We had a lot of conversations when I was laying in bed with, you know, my blood clot, and Roger went away. I don't have a name for the voice now. It's very powerful. Sometimes it has a feminine energy to it, and sometimes there's a masculine energy to it. And, they're always cheering me on. And if there's a doubt, with Roger kind of sneaks in, I talk back to Roger. And not only that, but the one thing that I used to do with Roger, I can't believe I'm saying this is so funny. I would have these maybe I'm crazy, I don't know. I would have these conversations. I'm like, oh, that's great, Roger, because today's opposite day. So I can't do it. So that means I can do it. And it was just like, oh my God. Yeah. So, so I used to talk to Roger, and it's so true. And I would say if you have a Roger, or a Connor, or Cooper, you said Cooper or Connor? Cooper. All right, Cooper. If you have a Cooper, I talk back to it, and I would be bold, and I would talk back to it because he or she, and I think it's a great idea to name because it allows you to communicate. Otherwise, it's just this wah wah in your ear, and when you identify, you know, whatever you want to call it, you get a little more power, and that is really what you need, and you can overcome stuff. And you know, briefly, as we wrap things up, I just want to say that, one of the things also is what you've done is you've overcome a lot of fear, fear of heights. You're going to go climb the highest mountain. You're going to do the Ironman in Hawaii, which a lot of people would be fearful of because, just really quick, how many miles did you swim, walk, or run and bike? Just curious. How many miles was that?
It's a 2.4 mile ocean swim, 112 mile bike ride, and you finish with a marathon.
And you get a week.
Miles.
You get like a week and a half to do that, right? Isn't it a week? Like a week?
Dude, you get one. You get 1 day.
Well, I would take a week. I might take 2 weeks. I could do it. And just think about it. All the Cooper that could be in there. There's sharks. There's current. There's jellyfish. There's, I don't know, a boat could run you over. Who knows? And it's amazing. I know a few people that have done the Ironman. Someone just came and did it here in Phoenix, and it was incredible. And I'll admit it here. I'm kind of a sensitive guy. I was crying watching these people cross the finish line. I went down there to watch her finish, and she wasn't one of the first people. She was in the middle, but I was absolutely just in tears, overwhelmed with emotion, watching these humans dig so deep to do what they did. And it was incredibly moving. Like, I'm just feeling it now. It was incredibly moving to see all the different ages and the sexes, and you could see some disabilities and all the stories. And I talked to a few of them. Every story and negative belief that they had was left at the starting line in order to finish that race. And congratulations. It's a hell of an accomplishment. It really is. And the fact that there are people that like do it every couple months is just mind-boggling to me. But for the normal people that do it and just like, I'm going to go do an Ironman, is truly remarkable and truly inspirational.
Either inspirational or crazy. One of the two words I think would fit well there.
Well, I saw some of those people and they are crazy. I mean, they were definitely crazy. Like they were like one guy that I saw cross, he wasn't even tired. I don't know how you could do all that and not be tired. He was jumping around like he had just walked 14 feet to go to the cafeteria, line. It was just unbelievable. They had free pudding or something. I don't know, but he had so much energy and it was just unbelievable. The other people are barely making it across. Like, they have a Charlie horse or they have an injury and they're just doing that. But if you haven't done that before, if you can go to Hawaii and check out Sean, if he does it again, that may be kind of cool because it's incredibly beautiful. But man, to be at the finish line of an Ironman competition is truly an experience. It's not like a sporting event like you've ever been to before. These are people that have dug down really deep and overcome some incredible obstacles to cross that finish line and have their name announced. And the joy on their face is just, man, they light up like nobody's business. You hear their name and it's just like, wow, that was so cool. I will never do this, but that's really impressive that you did that.
That's bringing me back to when I crossed the finish line. And I remember seeing this clock above the finish line and crossing with the tape. And I could hear, Sean Swarner, you are now an Ironman. I'm like, that is unbelievable. Something I've been training for, well, it doesn't sound like very long, but I think it was 7 or 8 months, day in, day out. I did something every single day to train for that race. But it's just like anything. It's just like mountaineering, trying to get to the top of a peak. It's just like running a marathon. It's just like going after whatever goal you have set for yourself. When you hit that starting line, when that gun goes off, whether you think you can or you can't finish, or whether you think you can or cannot accomplish what you set out to do, you're absolutely right. If you think you can do it, then you put in the effort. You're going to make it happen. And if you have, and I think this is one of the key understanding components, what does it mean to you? When you understand what that event, what that goal, what that determination, what that means to you at a core level, then you're going to find out what you're passionate about. You could potentially go from passion to purpose to meaning. And as soon as you have some meaning behind what you're doing, you're going to get that passion. You're going to find that purpose. And when that gun goes off, for the Hawaii Ironman, it's a cannon, just boom, it resonates out through there. And that's when the electricity just starts crackling and everybody takes off swimming. And you're either scared or you're confident. There's no in between. It's black or white, and you go. And the whole time you're sitting there thinking to yourself, not, oh man, I hope I don't get a flat tire. Just like going after a goal. You don't think to yourself, oh man, I hope this doesn't happen. I hope my partners don't bail on me. No, you're thinking about the finish line, and you're thinking about how that feels and what it means to you. So when you have that purpose, you have that passion, you have that meaning behind what you're doing, nothing is ever going to get in your way and stop you from crossing that finish line.
Absolutely. Well, you crossed the finish line, and I'm so glad you did, and you have shown people what's possible in ways that are pretty remarkable. Mount Everest, 2 poles, Hawaii Ironman, 1 lung. Incredible. Sean, thank you so much for being here today on Life Transformation Radio.
Rob, it has been a pleasure, man. I am very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. You were wonderful. Now, if you want to reach out to Sean, you can reach him on his website at SeanSwarner.com. And he's got a lot of cool stuff going on. The Big Hill Challenge, you can find out about his speaking, his books, and also his Kilimanjaro art. Check that out. Very, very cool. It's art by the Kilimanjaro artists that he knows, and you can check that out. I fell in love with one of those, and I have to go talk to him now and find out how to get that. So there you go. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your support and taking the time out of your busy and precious day to listen. We so appreciate it. And thank you for my wonderful audience right here on Clubhouse. It really makes for a great interview and show because we can feel your energy. And thank you for allowing me, along my very special guest, to touch your heart, move your soul, and inspire you to live a life of transformation. I'm Rob Actis. Until next time.
This is Life Transformation Radio. Download complete.